Actually, it's very rare. You're much more likely, according to statistics, to be killed by a refrigerator falling on you than to be eaten by a crocodile. The person before that who was eaten by a crocodile was eaten by a crocodile right in front of us. The sign said, "Beware of crocodiles." In any case, we may take shelter of so many different things, but these things ultimately cannot give us shelter. Only if we become Krishna conscious, if we develop our love for Krishna, can we actually get shelter and satisfaction. Krishna's pastimes are meant to show us this and how we can take shelter of him. We may engage in so many activities, but ultimately the purpose has to be to satisfy Krishna, otherwise we're just wasting our time. So Govardhan Hill gave shelter to the cowherd boys, the cowherd girls, the calves, the cows, Krishna and Balaram, the residents of Vrindavan, and therefore we glorify them, glorify Govardhan Hill on this day, and of course we glorify Krishna and the residents of Vrindavan, because by following their footsteps, our lives can become actually productive and actually worthwhile. Prabhupada said that just at the end of the 35th chapter now of the Krishna book, that such pastimes of Krishna remembered by the residents of Vrindavan, such as this pastime, they give us some idea how attractive Krishna is, not only to the animate, the living beings, but also to the inanimate, like the cows, the deer, but also to the inanimate objects like the rivers and the lakes, etc. That Krishna is all attractive. And therefore, the example of the gopis is very instructive for persons who are trying to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. That simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and remembering Krishna's path, or everyone has a tendency to love someone, that Krishna should be the object of love, is the central point of Krishna consciousness. The example of the gopis is very instructive for those who are trying to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and remembering Krishna's pastimes, everyone can become completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and thus make his life productive and fruitful. In other words, it's quite simple. If we hear about Krishna from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, calling out to Shrimati Radharani and Krishna to engage us in their loving service, then the result is we'll become absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and all our anxiety over the material energy will gradually cease, and we'll be able to absorb our mind in Krishna consciousness, and therefore our life will become actually productive and fruitful. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes?
If, like you said, the truth is that if we water the root of the tree, the whole tree gets... Why then was Indra not satisfied when they made the offering to Govardhan Krishna? Since that's an expansion of Krishna.
Because the leaves and branches are satisfied, they're connected to the tree. But if you disconnect the leaves and the branches from the tree, then they become very unhappy. Then they can't get any water. So because of Indra's pride, he had become disconnected from the tree. And therefore he became unhappy. So we have to remain connected, and therefore we'll get the benefit. Yes?
Thank you for a nice lunch.
Thank you for a nice class, Marsh. Just so you know, there's about 70
people watching through that little camera there. They're all saying Pralananda Maharaj Ki Jai, Pralananda Maharaj Ki Jai. I have a question. You said that Govardhan Hill is Krishna, and in this verse we see that it's saying that Govardhan Hill is the best of servants, Haridasavarya. So how are we to understand that it's also Krishna and the servant at the same time?
Well, Krishna has two different expansions, Vibhinangsa and Svangsa. Vibhinangsa is the separated expansions, that's the living entities such as ourselves. And Svangsa is Krishna's personal expansions. But all Krishna's expansions, whether it be Narayan and Vaikuntha, or the expansions such as the quadruple expansions, or the such as Vasudev, Aniruddha, Pradumya, and Sankarshan, or those who are lying on the Garbhodak ocean, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, Karnadakashaya Vishnu, Shuradakashaya Vishnu. All of them, they say, I am the servant of Krishna. So Krishna's expansions are Krishna, but they're in the mood of service to Krishna. So Govardhan is Krishna, an expansion of Krishna. So naturally he also has the mood of service to Krishna. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Oh,
okay. You said that what shelter valuable soldiers, family, friends. But to increase the consciousness, you have to rely on other people just to get the movement going. So you have to rely on other people. Anyway.
Yes, but we rely upon Krishna's devotees, not just ordinary people, but people who are willing to serve Krishna. We rely upon them. And therefore, that is Krishna. And if they don't, then Krishna, in other words, ultimately we depend upon Krishna and the words of Krishna coming through disciple succession from the bona fide representatives of Krishna. That's what we rely upon. Because if everything else fails, that won't fail. At the time of death, you can't rely upon anything else. That your best friend will call up the Vishnu Dutas, he has a direct line to the Vishnu Dutas, they're going to come and save you. No, these things will not work. The only thing that will work is our sincere desire to take shelter of Krishna through his representatives, through the instructions coming from his representatives. There's another question back there. Yes.
We hear from the Vedic scriptures the demigods are devotees, they're not pure devotees, but they're actually very good devotees of Krishna. So we hear in this Leela how Indra, who's obviously a special devotee, becomes overcome by pride. What advice can you give us here in Kali Yuga living in London, where the material energy is so strong? What advice can you actually give us here to avoid
chant Hare Krishna.
but even that's very difficult, Maharaj. Keep in mind.
Very difficult. That's one of our mantras. It is very. If you keep on chanting that mantra, it will become more and more difficult. Krishna says, "Daivi Esha Gunamayi, Mama Maya Duratya, Mama Eva Ye Prapadante, Mayam Etam Durandite." This divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. So Krishna agrees. But those who take shelter of me, he says, easily cross beyond it.